Matt Fay here, former D3 athlete for Texas Lutheran University. Now I'm a 5-0 player, and this is
Hi guys, my name is Kevin Minavi, a former Division One tennis player at Texas A&M University and a current licensed physical therapist in the state of Texas.
so we're teaming up to form a new YouTube channel called Grand Slam Bagel. This is going to be our first podcast. It's a channel focused on the tennis experience. We're going to have match play videos, point of view videos, interviews with players, some tournament play between me and Kevin. We're going to be talking about all sorts of different leagues. It's really going to capture the up and down experience of tennis players. You'll also be getting some valuable information as far as coaching tips, tennis form, footwork, some fitness drills that you guys can go through.
Mm-hmm.
Also with that, some gym workouts in general and possibly some physical therapy tips from Kevin.
There you go.
So one of our first videos we got coming out after this one is the ball machine review, and potentially after that, some tennis racket reviews. So pretty excited. I'll let Kevin really go into his background with A&M and what he did there.
Yeah, so I played Texas A&M and on the years around 2012 to 2014. I did quit because I wanted to focus on my academics, but during that time, playing on the team, started out redshirting and then worked my way up to playing around line 5, line 6, and some important, SEC and NCAA matches. The times were good times, learned a lot. I apply a lot of what I've learned in tennis to what I do now with regards to mental toughness, overcoming obstacles, and just kind of taking things day by day and taking the small wins. As we tennis players know, it's important to take those small wins when we can because tennis can be a very frustrating sport to play.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Matt, so I wanted to just kind of quickly ask. I know we've been dealing with a little bit injuries. You're recovering a little bit. How have you been doing with the recovery process, and also how have you been doing just kind of getting back into playing to get back into league matches?
Sure. So the past couple seasons, I've played 5-0. Definitely been suffering with some possibly tennis elbow, a lot of elbow related injuries. I also
Which
had
we've
like
been
a
working on.
right, also kind of like a minor ankle thing. So I'd say as far as ankle stretching, the elbow, I did take a break over the Christmas time. I wasn't playing a lot. Definitely recording myself videos, trying to change form, make sure form is not the cause of it,
Mm-hmm.
and stretches, exercise, all sorts of things. Kind of taking it easy, making sure my form is appropriate. I'm not injuring myself is the main thing I'm doing.
Yeah, and with regards to our viewers, the most important thing with tennis elbow or any really musculoskeletal conditions is load management, meaning that you do perform those activities that would normally bother it, but you don't get to the point where it would bother you. So let's just say Matt can only play for about 20, 30 minutes at a time without any pain. Once that 35-minute mark hits, you take a little rest, you let it rest, you let the symptoms kind of simmer down, then resume playing. And if you don't have any pain, you can just you can continue until the symptoms pop up, as well as modifying your day-to-day activities throughout the day so you don't aggravate those symptoms. So that's what I've been trying to educate Matt on, and how has it been going? Has it been getting better lately, or about the same, or hopefully not
So
worse?
far, it's been pretty good. I think I feel it most when I start serving hard. So I felt it a little bit yesterday after we
Yeah.
played, but
Yep.
other
Yep.
than that, pretty good overall. So pretty similar question to you, Kevin. Was there ever a time you got injured in college, and how did you work through that injury?
Yeah. One injury that comes to mind. I've had a couple, but one that came to mind personally was the condition called Osgood-Schlatter. It's a condition that affects your knee, and it's basically where the bump of the front of your knee gets a little bit inflamed, and it could be due to growing pains. It could be due to maybe some weakness in the quads. But you really do feel it with those kind of when you push off on your forehand, when you push off and recover, or if you're serving, you're trying to load and push off. And it was personally on my left knee, so I'm a righty, so I brought my feet together. Was never in a plank stance. I brought my feet together in order to jump and explode. So
Hmm.
my left knee would get very, very irritated. Rehab is sort of similar. We talked about with your tennis elbow, load management, improving strength in the quads and the glutes, and hammies as well, and then just kind of reintegrate yourself back on the tennis court gradually, and then go from there. So that's how I kind of fixed that. I went through PT as well, and they did a great job with me. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Did you guys have, I guess, PT people on the A&M team specifically, or how did that work?
Well, we had trainers that were kind of they're students, but they're trying to learn. So they would follow us, and they would give information to the head trainer. And then we did
Yeah.
have the physical therapist that we would see if we did have musculoskeletal problem, and we would go to him for about pretty much every day because we were on campus and he worked in campus. So anytime you could work in between your class schedule, you would, and then you just go see him and do some treatment, and then go on and go about your day. So yeah, it was it pays to have a high level college tennis program that you can kind of use the amenities for. So definitely a lot of benefits for it.
That makes sense. I think one of the things we talked about previously is like not just the difference in experiences, but like just what it's like in general for, people in high school right now that are thinking about being a college athlete and what that experience looks like. I know for me, it was very intense. I only played for about a semester, but I started as a computer science major, and I would wake up at like basically, I would have a class starting at 8, and I'd
Hmm.
finish my day at like 3 a.m. sometimes, and just do it over and over again throughout
Yep.
the week.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you maybe had a similar experience, or if you could kind of give us some details on that.
On like the schedule for
Yeah, what was your schedule
yeah,
like when you were
yeah.
playing college tennis?
Yeah, so spring, we played matches with different schools, and so that was like our the in season gameplay. So practice wasn't as rigorous as compared to fall. Fall, pretty much every day we wake up at 5:30, do a 6 o'clock lift, 6 to 7, go to class around 8, and then you go 8 to about 12 to 2, and then practice was at 2:30 to 5:30, and then if optional fitness after if you wanted to do more, but some people had to study. And that's one of the things with being a tennis athlete, or college athlete rather. When you're in college and you're also a student, you're a student athlete, you should be treated as a student athlete, but at times it tends to be like an athlete student,
Hmm.
where your athletics come first, which it's not the best thing for a student to go through, but um, yeah, like those optional practices, you can do them, but if you wanted to really dedicate your time to your studies, you really had to take those time to be disciplined with your academics. A lot of the times, I tell the prospective athletes who want to go to college, you have three components in a college athlete. You have the social life, you have the academics, and then you have your athletic career. And you can only choose two of them. Now, if you're really, really smart and you can handle like reading, cramming the night before, sure, go for it. I was not like that, so I couldn't do that. So I had to. I guess I was too much of when I was younger, too much of a guy who loved their social life. I'm a very social person, and tennis was another way to be social, but also be competitive. And my academics suffered a little bit, but then realizing that I didn't want to pursue tennis anymore, then I just quit and focused on my academics. So basically, that was kind of my schedule. So being a D3 schedule, can you explain for the viewers that like the difference between D1, D3? Is there any difference? Did you notice any difference when I explained what D1 tennis was like?
I think definitely they're all different. I would say there are some similarities. I think 2 is definitely closer to 1 than 3. 3 is definitely a more, I wouldn't say casual, but it's not as intense of programs I see compared to a D1. There's
Hmm.
still, you wake up, you train, you got your physical training, and then you got your court time, you got tournaments, matches, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
One thing that's definitely drastically different is kind of like the availability of like rackets, shoes, that type of stuff. That's not
Mhm.
always included for the D3 life. At least it wasn't in my experience. I did get some shoes. I did get like a bag, but in terms of like rackets or strings, that was kind of you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
One thing that was, drastically different between me and you is I started tennis very late. So I was around 15 and I
Mhm.
was just kind of like trying it for a year. Growing up, I tried a bunch of other different sports and probably
Mhm.
the one I had the most success at was baseball, actually. So
Mhm.
I played baseball around seventh grade. I actually played on a team that never lost a game. So it
Oh,
was pretty crazy.
that's pretty crazy.
But didn't really like that sport. I found it boring personally because I was like an outfielder at the time.
Mhm.
But
A
yeah,
lot
so
of
I tried
standing around.
tennis.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I tried tennis around my freshman year of high school.
Mhm.
I wasn't very serious the first year I was doing it. Then I started kind of towards the end of that year. I started getting some lessons at like a country club. I used to go to Pennsylvania all the time, and I found a pro at a country club, and his style was like effortless tennis. And I took some lessons from him, and then the year after that, I went into JV. And then I was getting a little more serious when I was in JV. I was playing a lot. Nothing like crazy structured like college tennis, but I was playing a lot for just like a lot of court time. And then I made it to varsity, like the tail end of varsity. I played usually either line six singles or for doubles, I was playing mixed doubles, which I'm not really a big mixed doubles fan, but it's definitely a different style of game versus,
It is.
you know, same gender doubles.
Right, right. Yeah, like men's doubles compared to mixed doubles is a little bit more. It's a different game. Usually with men's doubles, you have to. It's a lot more net play, and with mixed doubles, you kind of have to pick your spots on when to come in the net and be aggressive. Yeah, so I totally understand that. How were your academics? Were you able to study well? Did they give you ample time to study, or did you have to kind of cram it in and fill in the spaces like kind of like how I did?
Yeah, no, I would say it's definitely the latter, which you described. And like, there's a lot of things. It was my first semester, and I would say I got hit really hard. So coming in, I was kind of a low effort student. I would say in high school, like everything just kind of came naturally. It was pretty easy.
Hmm.
That was not the case when I got to college. And I also took, I don't remember the exact hours, but there was, like a recommended level of hours, and I
Hmm.
took one more class above that while being a student athlete.
Hmm.
So I ended up having to drop like two classes by the end of the semester, and then I like almost failed another. But I would say my GPA was definitely bad the first semester, and kind of similar to you. That's why I quit probably earlier than I could have. I could have kept playing tennis. Like there was nothing really holding me back in terms of skill. I mean, I'm not going to say my ratio was great, but I was probably like a 50-50 player,
Hmm.
making college tennis with, that little years of experience where I was playing people that were like double, triple my experience in terms of years.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I think I told you yesterday about it was Kobe Bryant would explain, um, R.I.P. of course, rest in peace. But he would explain in podcasts or interviews where the time that you allocate towards your sport, if you spend more time, obviously you're going to kind of build that separation from your peers, right? So I think you mentioned like you get up at like 6, you train from 7 to 9, you take a break, then you train from like 11 to 2, then you take another break, and then you go from like five to 7, and then you take another break, and then go from like 10 to 12. Compared to someone who's just who cares about the game, but maybe not to like what he was, but um, you get up at 10, train from like 12 to 3, and then you take a break, and then you train again from like 5 to 7 or 8, and you go home and rest, and then you don't do anything for the rest of the day. Over time, you build much more hours doing the first way, the former. And someone who's even, if two people are even, and one person's doing the first way, the second person's doing the other way, that person's just going to build separation over time, and that goes with tennis as well. Usually, tennis people who are very very good, they start around their 4 or 5. I started when I was 10. I did start a little bit later, but not as late as you. But just you make time, you make the time work for you, and you try to do what you can. for the other stuff, which is sad to say, but if you're an athlete looking to be pro or college tennis, you have to. That is your number one priority, and it should be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things people don't think about when like you think about someone starting at 4 or 5. It's not like you can't just be like a kid starting at 4 or 5. There's a group of people around that person starting,
Hmm.
and you kind of got to play the right people. You got to know the right people to kind of develop a routine, and
Hmm.
you really got to have a plan of action and what you're trying to do. Like your coaches got to be able to gauge long term, especially when you're playing tennis for the first time. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different options. There's grips. Are you going to play left-handed? Or are you going to play right-handed? You do have that option when a kid is 4 or 5 to
Yeah.
basically pick which hand you want. Obviously, left-handed is ideal,
I would have
but
gone left-handed for sure. If I know what I know now, yeah, left-handed. I'm
yeah,
not
I
lefty.
think most
I would have
people.
tried.
Yeah, but you gotta have time and money too. I mean, your
Yeah.
parents definitely got to invest in you. It's a very intricate process, I'd say, over many many years. I mean, people
Yeah.
like Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, they started super young.
Hmm. I think speaking of money, I mean, tennis is an expensive sport with regards to rackets, stringing, clothing, traveling, food, coaching. Those add up. And I remember my dad or my mom would tell me uh, years after I quit tennis, how much they were spending when I was younger. And believe it or
Yeah,
not, it was about $60,000 a year. And that's
wow, yeah,
yeah, a year, and that's what people made. That's what people made, and they were dedicating that to my tennis. So, of course, I wish I would have paid them back that much going pro, but didn't happen. It's okay, but
yeah,
it brought me opportunities to play tennis and coach college tennis as well, and use that platform, that mindset that you develop playing the game into what I do right now with physical therapy. So, um, no, a lot of valuable lessons, and I'm forever grateful for them doing that for me. But they didn't have to do that so I'm definitely blessed on that. But yeah,
yeah. That's awesome.
appreciate it. So let's this is our first podcast. I guess this is what are our goals? What are your goals for the upcoming this new year? Since it's January, was it 8th or 9th right now? And we're starting
January
off the
10th.
year.
Yeah,
January 10th. Jesus, sorry. I just wish it was still earlier. But what are
yeah.
your goals for 2024?
My goals, at least for tennis, are in general to get better, but be more focused and intentional with my training plans and be more disciplined on my routine
Mm-hmm.
overall. I've kind of balanced different hobbies and priorities, and last year I really focused more on cars, but
Hmm.
this year I'm gonna go back to tennis. I'm gonna try to. I'm in the league for 4 or 5 right now. I dropped down from 5-0. I'll probably go back up next season, but I'm gonna try to win everything in 4 or 5.
Four.
Potentially switching a racket. Probably just continuing to work on my play.
Mm-hmm.
Want to work in more like shorter shots for my game, develop more consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but overall, those are my goals for 2024. What are your goals?
Goals is actually to kind of get back into playing tennis, and get some good content out for our viewers on the mental side, more than anything on how to play a tournament, how to approach a match, how to approach different players with different game styles, whether it's being moonballer, pusher, counter puncher, aggressive baseliner, serve and volleyer, all around. How to kind of capitalize on their weaknesses by highlighting your strengths, those sorts of those talks, those TED talks per se, right? Also, just kind of with that, grow the channel and just give some good, decent content out there for our viewers to kind of and be a reliable source of information for, with like we talked about, like tennis rackets, which we'll be doing in the future, racket reviews, ball machine reviews. You can go like we'll play some tournaments together and see how we do from there, and we'll like kind of highlight our experiences with those. So that, and then of course also just continue to be a better person, be more disciplined with things I can be more disciplined with as a person, um, and just become a better physical therapist. Those are my goals. Oh, and also just be a little more, have a little more patience with little things. So that is my goal for that too. So all in all, I think I'm doing okay so far. It is January 10th, but so far so good.
That's awesome. All right, so I think as far as the format, this will be the end of the first podcast, but we'll change our format over time. I'm sure there's a lot more interesting things we got coming up. We mentioned some of those, all those reviews. We're definitely going to be spending some time in the next couple of videos with people that have never played tennis or a person that has never played tennis. I'm sure that'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see what someone thinks about when they're first starting to play tennis. We've also kind of lined up some matches for the rest of the year. We're also open to playing other people, so if anyone wants to challenge either me or Kevin, definitely reach out. That's going to be it.